Howdy. Well, this is a tale of mini rifles. Well, really three of them, but I have others to show to demonstrate because, well, I don't have one of the ones I need to show, but in the mid-1930s, Germany was on the rise. Europe was worried. They had just seen things like, the Sudetenland, Germany and Czechoslovakia, and then later on, their conquest of France. Well, Sweden, among other countries, was kind of worried about this. And at the time, they were armed with this. This is the M38. The M38 is a variant of the M96, which is the 1896 Mauser, which Sweden had bought to, looks like that is. I just want to make sure it was empty. This is chambered in 6.5 Swede, which is a flat-shooting, gorgeous little cartridge, very accurate. Well, they looked at that and thought, okay, here's the Germans. They've got this new, what was it, K98K, which was the carbine version of the Gewehr 98. It's a much more sophisticated rifle than this one. And the Swedes said, we've got to move ahead, keep the balance of power. Well, they went to a company that makes arms in Sweden named Youngman. And the Youngman company went to their chief engineer, which was a fellow by the name of Eric Eklund. And Eric Eklund made for them a thing that was called the AG-42 Youngman. And the Youngman was developed in 1 year, was a direct gas impingement semi-automatic in 6.5 Swede. Excellent rifle, absolutely excellent. I had one, but the headspace was off on it, and every time you shot it, it would pull the cartridge head off. So I took it back. Today, I kick myself because that could have been fixed, and if I had one today, it would probably be worth around $2,000 to $3,000. They're almost impossible to get these days. Well, that's what Sweden had through World War II. Matter of fact, that's what they used until the 1960s when they traded them into a license-built copy of the Heckler & Koch G3, which I think they still use. I'm not sure what Sweden has today. But anyway, about the time they were winding down the Ljungman, a coup took place in the country of Egypt. And remember, Egypt in the 1930s and 40s and 50s was ruled by a king. The king was named Farouk, but he was hardly ever in Egypt. He was a big fat guy, spent most of his time at the gaming tables in Monte Carlo, where he was gambling away the state treasury of Egypt. Well, Egypt was going through a transition and decided they didn't like that. And a group of colonels in his army got together and said, enough of this crap, and kicked out the palace guards and basically proclaimed a new republic with one of their own members as the first president. His name was Gemal Abdul Nasser. Well, Farouk's army had been armed with this, the FN-49. This is, by the way, this is the best book available on the FN-49. Read this. It's right. It's an excellent rifle. I almost bought one of these too for $60 in the 1980s. $60. I didn't have the spare $60. Kick myself. This thing is now worth a fortune too. It's a beautiful rifle. Anyway, Nasser looked at that with his army equipped with these, and he says, not good enough. So he went to the West and said, any of you guys want to sell me a rifle? And everybody, oh yeah, we'd love to. And they were all offered him FNFALs, all kinds of stuff. And he says, not too expensive. He went to Sweden and they said, well, we're tooling up for this G3, so we have the old tooling for this AG-42. Would you be interested? And he says, send your engineers down. So the engineers came down. They built an armory in Cairo, in the Mahdi district of Cairo, and built basically an armory that they put the tooling for the AG-42 in there, and then retooled it to shoot 8mm Mauser, which is what the FN-49 shot. And they made this. This is an Egyptian Hakim. It is a copy, an almost line-for-line copy of the AG-42 because it's made on the same tooling. imported into Egypt. And this is, let me show you how it works. First of all, the magazine, you never really take this out except to clean it. But this is how the bolt is charged. On the AG42, it had two nubs here. But on the Hakim, they put this metal thing here. Pull it forward and back. Do you notice the disappearing bolt? You've heard of Garand thumb. This is worse. I'll put the safety on and bring this back, and you can see it stays. It's a wonderful system. There's a little cup in here. There's gas taken off over here, comes through this port here, hits here, and slams the bolt back. The magazine holds 10 rounds, 10 8mm Mauser, and it works. Now, you don't want to stick your finger in there to make it go forward. The only way to really do it, there's two ways. One is to drop the magazine if it's empty, like that, or put a cartridge or something, or a pencil, something else in here. Put a pencil in, it will snap. But anyway, that was the way things stood until, I think it was in the 60s. Nasser had this idea of building a dam across the Nile, up around the first cataract. Well, Sudan didn't like the idea, and well, he went to his allies over in America and said, hey, send some engineers over to do that. And they said, well, here, you got to fill out this environmental impact statement, and what about liabilities, and not to mention all of the land or the people that you're going to be flooding, you're going to have to spend on. He said, go away. And that little difference of opinion cost politically quite a bit. He turned to Nikita Khrushchev and said, hey, could you guys send some engineers? They said, comrade, welcome to the Eastern Bloc. And he says, by the way, we'll give you engineering assistance. We'll also give you military assistance. Here's a few gazillion rounds of 7.62 by 39. And he says, what the heck am I going to do with these? I don't have anything to shoot them. And they said, not a problem. We'll sell you one of these. They were just going to the AK-47, and they had a whole bunch of these laying around. SKS. Actually, this is a Chinese Type 34, but it'll stand for it. And you'll notice the basic design. You know, it has these fins here for cooling, or these holes. It has a bayonet that folds under. It has a 10-round inline clip in the thing. And it's a gas impinged operation, and it's a pretty cool little rifle. And he says, how much is it? And they said, ka-ching, ka-ching. And he says, forget it. But thanks for the ammo. He went back to his Swedish engineers and his now Egyptian engineers as well and says, you guys, you got the tooling for this. I've got the ammo, 7.62 by 39. Build me something. And they came up with this. This is called the Rasheed. Notice, holes up here, folding bayonet. Magazine, this one's loaded, so I don't want to put it in, but this is the magazine for it. It's basically a Hakim, which is a AG42 with a charging handle on it, built to look just like a SKS. It does work. There's one flaw, one real major flaw to this thing. The gas tube that's in here, the one in the AG42 and the one in the Hakim, are both made out of stainless steel. This one's made out of regular steel. So if you don't keep it meticulously clean, it'll rust up and clog up and won't work so well anymore. The other way to do it is you get a piece of welding wire, this is the size of the thing, totally disassemble it, and then run it through there and remount the gas port. I had to do that with this one. This one was in rough shape when I got it. Anyway, by the way, these were used mainly by tankers, and mainly in the Yom Kippur War, and they were lost in the Yom Kippur War. I bought this via Israeli salvage, or surplus. Anyway, this is the final iteration of the Youngman, and this is the very first gas-impinged operation, semi-automatic service rifle ever used in any army in the world, was the AG-42 in Sweden. And Because of that, Egypt was well ahead of Israel or anybody else in the theater with these rifles, but didn't do them much good. By the way, if you ever find one of these, I discovered today watching another YouTuber that they run about 1,800 bucks. This flash hider up the front, Lordy, does it make a noise? I'm sure that every Egyptian who fired one of these went deaf. Every one, without exception. They're just so loud. Anyway, just one of my weirder collective aspects. I mean, I like the gadget factor of weird rifles, and you got to admit, the Youngman is a weird rifle.